Are you ready? Good evening. I'm calling to order this meeting of the Finance Committee. Thank you all for being here. I'm going to begin by reading the published notes. Aldermanic Notice, New Haven. The Finance Committee will hold a public hearing on Wednesday, October 22nd, 2025 at 6:00 p.m. in the Aldermanic Chambers, 165 Church Street, New Haven, to act upon the following. 1. OR 2025-0026. Ordinance amendment of the New Haven Board of Alders to appropriating ordinance number 1 for fiscal year 2024-2025, pursuant to Article 8 of the City Charter and Sections 2-385 to 2-389 of the Code of General Ordinances, approving transfer number 25-999 to eliminate negative line item balances for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2025. Item 2, LM 2025-0526. Order to read and file the updated budgetary and financial reports for the month of August 2025 in compliance with Article 8, Section 5 of the Charter. These items may be inspected at the Office of Legislative Services, 165 Church Street, second floor, New Haven. Per order, the Honorable Adam Marchand, Chair, attest Michael Smart, City Clerk. If you need a disability-related accommodation, please call 3 business days in advance at 946-7651-VOICE or 946-8582-TTY. Public comment/testimony may also be submitted via email to publictestimony@newhavenct.gov before 2 p.m. on the day of the meeting. The meeting may be viewed on the Board of Alders YouTube page. We'll now have introductions of committee members, starting to my right.
Good evening, Mr. Chair. Richard Furlow, Ward 27.
Good evening, Alder Adam Marchand, Ward 25 Chair.
Alder Salmonza, Ward 17.
Okay, so we have a very straightforward agenda this evening. We have the year-end closeout transfer request from the administration dealing with our last fiscal year. And then we have the monthly financials for August of this fiscal year. I know that a number of colleagues intend to join us this evening, but are running late. Out of consideration of that, we're going to begin with item 2, the monthly financial report of August. And that way the folks who arrive late will miss the least amount of time possible for the number 1 item on our agenda, which is of greater interest. So I'm going to proceed with my procedural announcements, even though there's not a huge number of people in these chambers. If you have a phone or a pager or some other electronic device that makes noises, has great ringtones, for example, please put it on mute or turn it off. We would be glad to hear your ringtones at some other occasion, but not tonight. If you wish to speak with someone in the audience, a good friend of yours, a colleague, that's wonderful. Please take it outside. The acoustics in this room are such that if you're whispering in the back, sometimes we can hear you, or it interferes with our ability to follow what's going on up here. When we call people forward to speak, we invite them to approach us, to come sit at the table. And before you give your remarks, we ask you please to give us your name and address for the record. And those are procedures. We don't currently have a quorum, so we're going to proceed as a workshop. And it'll look and feel very much like we're having a full committee meeting. My hope is that we will have a quorum by the end of the proceedings this evening. I will allow the public to speak on these 2 items, regardless of whether we have a quorum. It was our published intent to do so. We should make good on that intent. Having said all that, now let's ask our city staff from the finance department, please, to come forward and to dazzle us with their presentations. Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening. When you are settled, we'll take your names and addresses for the record.
Shannon McHugh, 925 Orinoco Road, Waterbury, Connecticut.
Ron Dizzy, 219 Rainbow Terrace, Hampton.
And if you have paper to give us, why don't we do that first?
Sure. It's just the front page of the August report. We are working on September now.
Thank you.
Okay. So we did publish the August report, and as you can see, we are projecting a surplus right now. There are a couple items that I would like to talk about. Currently, it's only 2 months into the fiscal year, the August 2025 report. So at this point, it's a little bit hard to see trends, but we do see that property taxes are coming in as expected. They are coming in fairly strong. I'm getting to the page here. So we don't foresee any issues there. We are seeing a little bit of uptick in some delinquent city taxes being paid. It's being paid a little bit quicker than it was last year, so it's probably some delinquencies are coming in. But we do believe that we will come in very close to budget on the property taxes. This August report does include the $3 million in state aid that is yet to be appropriated, so it's just showing up as a surplus under state aid. We will talk about that at a later date, about how to appropriate that $3 million of extra state aid revenue that we found out we had after the budget had been adopted. So that is included in there, and that is offsetting slightly. We do expect to have a slight or a small deficit in debt service because of some financing charges that were not built into the budget. So we do believe there might be a little bit of an overage under debt service. And then we do believe that there'll be a little bit of a reduction in payment in lieu of taxes for a specific agreement that we don't think we will receive the revenue for. So when you look at the additional $3 million of revenue and the small shortages that we think we might have in revenue, we're looking at revenues coming in above budget by $2.3 million. And then on the expenditure side, like I already said, we do expect a little bit of a deficit in the debt service line for some of the financing costs. And so all in all, we believe, based on what we're seeing right now, that the year will end in a surplus, and we're currently projecting $1.7 million in surplus. As far as the litigation fund, we believe that will come in balanced. We have no reason to think otherwise with the trend that we're seeing. And the medical fund, we believe it's coming in, at least as of August and even a week or two into October. The medical costs are coming in much lower than they were in fiscal 25. And we will get to that, but there were some high claims in 2025, but we're not seeing that thus far for the fiscal 2026 year, but we're tracking that carefully. We've met with Anthem. We're looking for ways to make sure we're managing the pace of that expenditure growth in terms of the medical fund, and we're working with consultants and labor to try to make sure that number does not grow. We want to minimize that growth. So all in all, the workers' comp fund right now is showing a small deficit, but small surplus. And we're showing the revenues are exceeding the expenditures, so it's coming in a little bit above budget. So far, so good. There's some things we're keeping a close eye on, things that, we saw in the fiscal 25 budget, we don't want to repeat. We're tracking closely our utility bills. We're working on hedging our electricity costs so that we can lock into prices for the winter and look again for spring, summer to get the best pricing possible. And we're looking at doing usage audits and working closely with UI and Southern Connecticut Gas to make sure that we're being as efficient as possible. So those are some of the things that we're keeping a close eye on. We're also keeping an eye on overtime and trying to, currently it looks like in the analysis we do that the expenditure savings would offset the overtime. And we want to keep a close track on that to make sure that that is in fact the case, because we are increasing hiring. I know that there's larger public safety classes coming through, and they're really working hard to get those positions filled.
Okay. Anything else you want to tell us before we ask our questions?
No, I would point out that we did do our bonding. We did issue the bonds. We did a bond refunding. So we had about $3.6 million in interest savings, net present value, which will be spread out over the life of the bonds. But that provides some relief in the debt service line. And we're looking for potentially another refunding this year. I know we only go to market for new bonds every 2 years, but there is potential that there'll be a refunding opportunity later in the year.
Could you say once again what the savings was?
$3.6 million.
3.6 net present value.
Yes.
Okay. Anything else?
The bond sale, that was a nice event. We had some kids from Metropolitan Business Academy come in. Was there 7 or 8 kids?
Yes, we did bond school for the day.
Yeah. So it was really, they enjoyed it. They learned a lot. They had some good questions. So it was good for them to see that.
Oh, that's good. Very nice. Okay. Well, thank you for that presentation. Questions from colleagues on this report? Alder.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for your presentation. Good evening. My voice is really echoing. Can we go back to, so could you explain a little more about the $3.6 million savings? It came from?
Oh, sure. We refinanced bonds. So it's prior bonds. I believe they're 2018 bonds. I have the whole write-up and I should know this off the top of my head. But what happens is we issued bonds previously. There is something called the call date built into the bond documents. So when you issue bonds, they're outstanding, but there is a date where you can go back to the market and refinance. It's called the call date. And when you know a call date is coming, you do the analysis to see if the market's in your favor or not. And the market was in our favor. So we were able to go to market and refinance those bonds for lower interest rates. And so that lower interest rate gave us $3.6 million in savings. And then when they say net present value, that's as of today, because we're amortizing over time.
And I probably should know this, but I'll just ask: is this immediate savings? Is it?
No, it's spread out.
So this, and you just said that.
Yeah.
And so this number could change then, the 3.6 million.
No, that's the actual savings, but we took the savings. So you could take the savings all up front, which is something the mayor hasn't really recommended, because it's sort of like kicking the can down the road. So we did take a little bit more savings in the current year to cover what we think would have been a deficit in debt service because of other financing costs. And then we equally distributed the rest of the savings throughout the life of the bonds, so that we're just taking savings every year, and we're not like taking it all up front, keeping the interest rates high in the out years.
So the $3.6 million savings is savings as of this year, or savings as over the course of the life of the bond?
But it brings down the debt service over time. And it's a way that, we're trying to tackle our, we have a high long-term liability burden. And so this is a way to just kind of bring those costs down as much as possible.
Okay. So I'm just.
So the yearly debt service payment is less.
Mm-hmm. Right, yep, I understand that part. So the 3.6 million,
Uh-huh.
then it's not funds that we will be able to allocate in its entirety this year.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you for that. And I did understand, I just wanted to make sure
Yeah.
that we were saying the same thing, or that you were saying what I was
Yeah.
thinking. How about the utilities?
Mhm.
So this has been, I think it's been a little bit of a concern for us. The rising cost of utilities, which is out of our control, but also how we've been paying utilities.
Mhm.
So are we current with,
We are
Are-
current.
okay. Do we have any credits? Have they been overcharging?
We are currently doing an audit with Troy Banks. We sent
With
it's a company called Troy and Banks.
Okay.
And we gave them all of our invoices for the whole year. And we want to be sure that we were not overcharged. We also strengthened our internal policies or internal controls. And so we worked with Greg Milano from UI and Southern Connecticut Gas. And we worked to clear out every single balance there was so that we got to zero. We paid everything off. We do believe that some of that was carryover. The controller and I, have been with the city for about a year. We kept getting balances from UI that didn't match our information, so we had to do a really deep dive and make sure that we were getting ourselves to zero. We did consolidate a lot of the accounts. There's a lot of accounts, and it takes a long time to enter an invoice, so we did a lot of consolidation, and Steve Winter is doing a lot more. He's working on Southern Connecticut Gas now. We really want to move to electronic invoicing, but UI is not able to do that at this time. So, we're trying to make sure we get everything entered as quickly as possible and get it paid. And then we're also looking at how we buy energy. We do have a contract with Direct Energy, which provides the actual electricity. UI does, is responsible for the transmission. That lowers our costs as much as we can. And we're also prepaying for electric for the winter season. So we're locking in a price that would be better than the spot market. And then we're looking at being more aggressive with this. We have data, we're getting data feeds every day as to when is the right time to purchase electricity in advance. And we're gonna look at doing a summer hedge as well. We're just doing the research now, so that hasn't been decided yet, but we're looking for every opportunity we can to bring those costs down. We met with the state to talk about our 5-year plan. A 5-year plan, because when you receive more state aid, they want to know that you're not building a whole on your budget over 5 years. So we discussed that with them, and there are contracts that the state has to do usage audits so that we can look at how we're using electricity and where there's opportunities for savings. We're going to piggyback on a state contract to do some of those energy audits.
That's really good to hear. Thank you for that. And I'm asking because typically, Mr. Chair, we are able in our budget to pull money from that utility line to cover some small areas of where we want to shift money, and that hasn't been the case. And I was just wondering, where things stand with that, because we have traditionally put a little bit more money into utilities, but that money has been sucked up, and so part of it is because of the rising cost of utilities and possibly some errors that the utility company has made
Yes,
in charging the city with the million accounts
yes.
that we have. I have no trouble keeping my own account, so I can imagine. My final question, if I may, one more.
Yes, but I mean, sure, if you have one moment to recognize our colleague Alder Festa, who has joined us. And I just want to let you know that because I knew that a number of colleagues would be late tonight, we started with item 2 because it's of less interest than item 1. And I wanted folks to miss as little as possible of the presentation for item 1. So we're currently talking about the monthly financial report of office.
Thank you.
Back to you, Mr. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I'm keeping them occupied until everyone gets here. But these are real questions. These are real questions.
Yes, yes.
how about so we had voted to reassign some money that was not paid through ARPA, or that we weren't able to spend through ARPA through some projects. And so because we have this overage, this kind of perceptual overage of money, where do we stand with any of our projects that are unpaid, that are not part of the ARPA allocation?
Are you referring to capital projects?
No.
Okay.
Let me rephrase it. Do we have any projects that are unpaid that that may tap in to this extra funding that we have?
Oh, I see. You mean, is there, okay, so there's, all the ARPA funds have been allocated, and then all the funds have to be spent by December 26th. And Ron can speak.
Maybe I shouldn't say projects.
Yeah.
Because I said projects in ARPA.
Yeah.
But because I would hate to see the 3.6 or this extra money just go towards paying bills, utilities and other things. And so would it be reassigned? I know we haven't gotten there yet, but the thought process, is there a thought process of where this will be anything that's lingering that would not qualify for ARPA funds, may not qualify for capital projects, but there are some projects or capital bonding that would qualify and say, you know what, we can take this money and apply it to one of these smaller projects. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so the ARPA, and Ron, you step in whenever you.
Well, I think depending on the department that you're asking, I'm sure everybody has a list of what their priorities would be for that funding. Projects that weren't funded by ARPA. I think that's what you're.
Outstanding projects that we're still waiting, that departments are still waiting for funding to come through.
Right.
That were not under the ARPA allocation.
So we have all the ARPA allocations, and those had all been approved by the Board of Alders, and we can't add any more. And so we're looking at like the likelihood that all the projects, all the ARPA funds will be spent down by December 2026. Some projects take a little bit longer, so there's an analysis going on, like, are you going to be able to spend it? And if not, can we reassign it to other previously approved ARPA plans? That's what we're working on now. But then there's, other projects, capital projects. I would like to point out that the state did give us $8 million in additional municipal grant and aids. That is for 2 years. Right now, we're only talking about how we would appropriate it in this capital, in the 5-year plan. But we will get another $8 million in 27-28, or for the next budget year. So there'll be another $8 million coming that we will come to you to determine how to allocate. So there is additional funding that we do have for capital projects. The thing with the municipal grant and aids projects there are specific things that you have to use the funds for. A lot of it is, real infrastructure type work, like engineering, city plan, parks engineering, things like that. So, it's for projects that will have, when they're completed, they'll be for an asset that has like a 20-year useful life, and meets some of those requirements. So you can't use it for everything, but it's a lot of additional, funds that are coming the city's way over the next 2 years. So we can talk about, we have this proposal now, what to do with the $8 million we've gotten for the current fiscal year, but then there'll be another discussion about what we do with the $8 million.
And that's what we just voted on. Okay, that's the money we just one more follow-up and then I'm finished, if that's okay, Mr. Chair. I want to take a lot of time. So the 3.6, how much money are we getting this year?
Are you talking about from the savings?
Yes. What would be the actuals, because it's spread out over the course?
Oh, yeah, but see, those that's, when you do a refunding, there's all these rules rules about capital. So we talked to our consultant, Dave Panico from Robinson Cole, and he said you can either, well, the refunding pays down interest, that's it. When you do a refunding, you pay down interest. We did go to the bond market and we got more par. So you go to the bond market for $60 million, but we were oversubscribed. So there is a little bit of funding there that is, that we can use to pay down debt service. So there is some benefit for when we went to bonds, and we had a really successful sale. We got another positive outlook from Moody's. We had an upgrade, and we got a positive outlook from Fitch. So we have positive momentum in the municipal bond market, and it's been noticed, and so we were oversubscribed. So that does provide a little bit of additional funding that we could use for potential projects. But the $3.6 million, that is for interest only. That's how that, because it's
Okay.
funding.
I got it. That's all I had.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Alder Furlong. Further questions from colleagues? Alder Festa.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Sorry I was late. And if you covered this, just tell me and I can look at the recording. Board of Ed. How are we looking with, I guess, their plans for the next year? Because they were in a deficit.
Right. So the year's early. We're in August. I know that they are, they presented what they thought would happen, during the budget. We did give them an additional $5 million in aid for this current year. We do have a proposal in front of the Board of Alders to assign fund balance of $3 million as we had done in fiscal 2025. I know we meet with them bi-weekly, and they're doing, they have the teachers' contracts are up, so they're in negotiations with the teacher contracts, so we're paying careful attention to that. And there's analysis going on about, what those costs might look like. So far, it's it's hard to see a real trend. I do know they're doing their best to rein in, discretionary spending as much as possible, but we don't really have a trend that's that we can really sink our teeth into yet. It's too early in the year, but.
Yeah, I guess I'm, just hoping that they are careful with who they hire for what positions and the amount, because obviously salaries are seem to be really high with new hires in administration. And my concern is mostly, what if they looked at for non-student facing positions as far as, hiring freezes for those positions, or what efforts are they making to take a really good look at their budget with the teachers union, with the contract negotiations in mind, because look, our teachers, they have high demand jobs. It's not like it used to be a long time ago. And anyway, all this is food for thought as far as hopefully what they're doing.
Yeah.
And I know you can't.
Well, as you're speaking, in the monthly report, we did include their financial report as of August 31st, 2025. So that is included. And I'm just trying to see if I can get you a number of what they're projecting. It looks like, again, early in the year, it's hard to really assess the trend, but we are they're projecting. There's nothing unusual what they're projecting right now, so it's a little bit hard to tell. It's early in the year, and I don't have all the specific details about what they're doing about the staff.
What's the number that you're not saying?
Well, we budgeted 213 million, and year to date, it looks like they have spent, or as of August 31st, they have spent 36.8% of their budget, which is a little bit ahead of, it's 2 months. But Yeah, it's hard to really see a trend yet.
But did their report include a projection of what the year end would be?
They did not put the year end here. They just kind of showed where they are at the
Okay.
moment and how much available budget they have left. So the amount used, they've actually, like I said, they've used 36.8%. They've spent $135 million thus far, but they don't have a projection for
Right.
it.
And it could be that they paid contractors for work that will be executed for the remainder of the year.
Yes.
They have to pay their salaries and their present operating costs, but you could imagine, and this may not be the case, but you could imagine that some costs that the district is paying, they pay up front. And so you have like a front loading of expenditures that maybe don't keep up that same pace.
Right.
So, but, okay. Okay, so there's no
No
dollar
trend
figure.
yet. No,
Okay.
it's too hard to say.
You seemed reluctant to say it. I wanted to make sure that it was,
No, I was trying
because
to
it's
find the
not
right
there.
line. I was trying to find the right
Otherwise,
line.
we're gonna make you say it.
Yeah, because we
Don't bring it
also,
up unless you're gonna say it.
yeah, we pull data from Munis.
Uh-huh.
I mean, they have much more
Yes,
precise projections, and so far, we're not seeing anything out there.
okay.
How is that trending though? How does that 36.8% compare to last year and the year before? Is it about the
I
same
think
or?
it's about the same.
Okay, so it looks like they spend a lot at the beginning and then it kind of trails off. Well, I don't want to say trails off, but just evens out or
Right,
balances out.
yes.
Okay. All right. NIPS. I mean, we haven't heard in a while about, the refund
Yeah.
from NIPS. What does that look like? What has been brought in? And I know it's supposed to be used for specific, or the funds are supposed to be used for,
Yeah, for
Specific
recycling
things.
program,
yeah, how,
I think Ron's looking up right
Okay.
now.
I'm trying to remember what the account number is, but it's coming in. The funds are coming in.
Several hundred
Those-
thousand. Like, if my memory correct, I would say about 400,000.
We
Is that too
can,
high?
no, that's about right, I think it's
Yeah.
in there, but we can get you that number. We can definitely get you that.
Would you like to make that request? to the chair?
yes.
Sure.
Mr.
So
Chair,
noted.
Thank you. Yes. No, it's just, we haven't, we don't generally ask about the NIPS and it came up recently in a conversation, so it was something I've been wanting to ask as far as what amount we've gotten in and if we've allocated it for any projects or where are we sending this 400K or approximate 400K?
Well, it does fund, and I think Ron's just found it, but it does fund staff for recycling program, and supplies. So I don't have the exact numbers in my mind, but I can certainly get those to you.
Okay, thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair.
Yes, so noted.
So staff and supplies mainly
Yeah.
for recycling.
Yes.
Okay, because there's a lot of talk about different, we just had a meeting to talk about food scraps possibly. So that might need some funding, but we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. Federal funds, how much of an impact has that had on our budget?
Well, on the general fund, we haven't seen the impact. I mean, what we're worried about, the state has passed a biennial budget, so we believe we're fine for 2 years in the next budget cycle. And as far as the general fund is concerned, we'll have to watch. On the special funds side, there have been, I can pull it up, there have been some grants that have been canceled. A lot of EPA grants are not moving forward, which was really unfortunate.
There's a court case on that tomorrow for $21 million that was rescinded from EPA.
And then we are tracking it. We have a report that we get to the mayor on a monthly basis to track the impacts. The thing with special funds, we did some of the vaccination grants, expired and were not renewed. And we do send letters to those employees who are affected. When employees are hired under this special fund, they know that, it's contingent on that funding. And so we've been working with HR to make sure that we provide proper notification. When it's appropriate, there's other positions that open up and those people can apply, things like that. So we are working closely with, human resources. We are also looking at, what, and Ron did an analysis on this, we were talking about it this morning, who's funded by various grants that provide essential services to the city, and we need to look at those people to determine in the next budget cycle how we want to handle that, and how we want to, especially when the ARPA expires. There are some people who are funded entirely by ARPA, and they provide a lot of services that the city needs, so we're going to have to look at those and make some decisions about who gets brought onto the general fund, or if we can find other sources of revenues. We are working on a grant management system right now with OpenGov. It's going quite well, the implementation, and we believe that once this system is up and running, we will be able to source and research new grant opportunities and more easily apply for things.
They have a grant CT component to that as well, so that would be very helpful, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
I'm just gonna say as a
Yeah.
follow-up to Alder Festus' question, you mentioned that there's some regular report you give to the mayor's office about tracking these
Yes,
grants that are affected by
right,
actions by the Trump administration.
yes,
We'd like to see that.
sure.
Thank you. Back to you, Alder Festus.
Just lastly, capital budget.
Yes.
We've been investing 60 million over a 2-year period for a while now, and this coming from me. Hopefully you're not in shock. Is there talk about increasing that amount? Are we keeping up with CPI? Are we keeping up with inflation as far as, cost of everything is going up?
Definitely not in the realm of fire trucks. Please continue.
Exactly. It's never too soon to start talking about, even though we just voted on a 2-year cycle, it's never too early to start talking about what will happen after that 2-year cycle.
Mhm.
Is there talk about increasing capital budget to keep up with inflation, mainly for, infrastructure? We as alders get a lot of requests for a lot of things, mainly sidewalks, speed humps, infrastructure, safety, et cetera. Is there talk about possibly increasing capital budget funds?
Well, we haven't really started talking about the next round. We just issued the bonds, we got the check last week, so we're happy that's done. But it was a successful sale, I will say. And the state did step up and gave us $8 million in additional municipal grant needs for 2 years. I think we talked about this before you came in, but we have $8 million, which is being proposed how we would reallocate that, which, we have to assign it to specific projects that meet the requirements of those grants. So that's what that proposal is, but we will also get another $8 million next year. We haven't even started to appropriate that yet. That will be something that will come before you, and we will determine, how to appropriate the additional $8 million next year. So that's a total of $16 million more than we had expected when we passed the budget. So, we did meet with the state. They wanted to make sure that we would be fine with moving forward if that did not continue. So they're basically signaling like this is not something they expect to continue to do, but it has really been helpful to get those funds for the next 2 budget cycles.
I love when the state comes through for us, but
Yes.
as you mentioned, that's not something that's, forever. And it's for the 2 years of, already what we know. And I'm sure the administration will meet with the department heads who hear from us as to where the concerns are, the residents, but I am concerned about what happens after that. What happens. I guess it's a good time to gauge where that money goes, how it's spent, to maybe think about what we may need to increase in capital budget. Maybe 2 million more per year, 3 million, 4, 5 million, I don't know. But if it's the 4 million and 4 million, we need to maybe consider that for future thought as far as capital budget.
Well, we did fund everything that was requested for the current year, for the 2-year cycle. And so we will begin looking at the bonds that will be issued in FY 27-28. I have not, there's been no determination that I'm aware of to change that number, but it's very early. We just finished the bonding.
Food for thought to
Yes.
think about and maybe see where this additional 8 million per year that the state has given us and see how that has helped with offsetting some of the costs from capital budget, if
Sure.
that makes any sense.
It does.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alder
Thank you,
Festa.
Mr. Chair.
I do have the number for the bottle bill, if you
Oh, yeah.
like that.
The
now.
NIPS number?
The NIPS number, yes.
What is it? We'd be glad to hear.
So we had total, we have received 765,000 roughly.
Since when, over what time period?
This goes back to, let's see.
Like over the last few years, basically.
From its inception.
So it looks like it started in 2022. That was the first amount that we received. And we have spent some, so there's about 600,000 available right now. So out of that 765, we've spent about 165,000.
Okay. And that money is required to be spent on certain things.
Yeah,
Related
For-
to recycling.
related, yes, exactly.
Okay. It would be interesting to see, because we're still asking for the report. We're glad you found it and gave us the number, but I think it would be good to see a report showing those numbers, but also maybe some information about what have those $165 in funds supported over the period of time that the money's been spent.
Okay.
Alder Festa.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You just triggered a brain cell. Cannabis. Now, we get money from cannabis sales too. Same question. How much have we brought in? And that too is for specific purposes as well.
I don't remember.
We will
It goes
take that
in-
at a later time.
Okay. I do
Because I
get
want-
the invoices and I send them out to the.
So we'll give you the time to do a proper review of that information and send it to us.
Thank you.
Okay.
That's great. Thank you, Alder Festa. Further questions? Alder Fairlip. You don't have a question? Alder
I do
Festa?
not.
Okay, Alder Fairlip.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My heart is racing to hear that the Board of Ed is already at 36.8%. This is not going to trail down or even out because they are consistently over budget. I understand, and we're not going to get into that political discussion over how much money they should be getting and what they're not getting. The point is that the mayor has proposed a budget for them that was approved by this board.
Yes.
And so they are expected to stay within that budget to the best of their ability. My question is, what can your office do to kind of keep them on target of where they should be? And then our chair can figure out what steps or reports need to be made, if any, afterwards. Because my concern is what we're going to be talking about in our next item is 3 million here, 8 million there. At the end of the year, trying to figure out how to make up the budget when we should probably be dealing with this now.
Well, we are tracking, obviously. We do meet. There is, I will say, I have had several conversations with Amilcar Hernandez, CFO, and we've been working, we work well together, we collaborate. He is really engaged in the teacher contract negotiation. We are doing a lot of monitoring. We share the monitoring. We're making sure that all the bills get paid so we can track things appropriately and we can see what's happening. Last year there was something that was hard to track. We were trying to, the school transportation, and it took a really long time for the vendor to sign the contract. So it was hard to get visibility because we weren't sending the checks out. We sent them all out at the end of the year. We're trying to alleviate situations like that, so we just have more transparency and visibility about what's going on. When we meet with them, sometimes in the beginning of the year, you do encumber a lot of funds so that you have all your POs in order. So
That would be a purchase order, right?
A purchase order, yes. So you have all your purchase orders in so you can spend against those. and that would show up under encumbrances. So I don't think, I think when you're setting up for the year, I'm not alarmed that it's a little bit, 36.85% per se, because I know that they're, making some of those purchase orders and getting those encumbrances in. It's really about tracking it throughout the year and monitoring that. That's what we're doing, as much as we can with overtime. We're projecting it out, and we're getting projections. I do have their, like I say, I use their report to see what they're seeing in terms of trend. And I will say there's a great willingness to work collaboratively, which I really appreciate, especially in the budget cycle, to talk about things as we work through our next budget. So I am appreciative of that, and we're just staying on top of things as much as we can.
If they were trending this way last year and the previous year and came out on budget, I wouldn't be concerned.
Right.
But because this is the trend and they come out way over budget, then it's a concern. I think it's probably something that we should probably have more discussion through the chair to have him perhaps schedule more meetings and ask for more reports as we're going through it. And I'm not even sure, Mr. Chair, what we should be asking for from our finance department. You said that you got some reports through Munis.
That's our financial system.
What's it called?
Munis.
Munis.
We can run reports to see, what the spending looks like. But we do rely a little bit, they present their own reports, and so we look at those to see how they're trending. I'm looking at last year's, I just pulled it up with this for August, and they spent more by this time of year last year. They were ahead of this last year. Sorry, it wasn't.
And we don't really need the numbers now, Mr. Chair. I think it's just something to flag because they came, they were ahead last year, but they came millions of dollars over budget also, millions.
Yeah.
And we appreciate the job that the CFO is doing. I understand he's doing an excellent job there, and we're looking forward to whenever the chair decides to give that he'll come before this committee and give a presentation.
Yes.
But that's all I have, Mr. Chair. Just kind of wanted to flag that so that my heart will stop racing. Thank you.
Thank you, Alder, for allowing me. Very much hope that your heart is feeling better. When you first said that figure, kind of like the reptile part of my brain said, oh my gosh, they've spent more than a third of their budget and they're only 1/6 of the way through. That sounds like they're going to spend twice their budget.
Yeah.
But it doesn't work that way.
No, not really.
Right, you spend a lot
That's
of
why
money
it's
up front
hard.
and then you spend less money after. And so, but it would be good and comforting for this committee to have some historical information about
Okay.
the dynamic way that the Board of Ed spends its money. That's true for most organizations, right? There's some big expenditures you make all at once, and
Right.
not monthly. So the month that you make it, boom, that month looks looks different.
Yeah.
But it's because you made your expenditure for that particular project for the year at that month. So, but I think for us, it'd be good to understand more about like the pace at which the Board of Ed spends money, and if there's any historical data about that.
Sure.
That'd be helpful to know.
We have.
Because we want to judge for ourselves.
Right.
Are they really taking this seriously? Are they on target? Are they galloping out of control once again?
Okay.
So
We can
that's
do
a
that.
follow-up question through the chair. And we would appreciate whatever information you can give on that.
Okay. I will say total amount, bottom line for this year was $67 million spent, and last year it looked like it was 87.
Right.
But I don't know if that's indicative. I'd have to do more research on that.
It's probably a little bit of a jagged line when you look at
Yeah.
the month-to-month expenditure. Okay, so seeing no further questions from colleagues, I'm going to ask a couple questions and then we're going to move on to the next item.
Sure.
My couple questions are, can you tell us more about the financing costs that have caused a deficit in our debt service?
Sure. Some of it is the GANs, so the grant anticipation notes. We had to refinance the GANs. We worked, so you can roll them we have one more opportunity to roll them. So these GANs have been outstanding for quite some time. I think when we originally issued them, they were definitely closer to $80 million. We've been paying those down. We got them down to 59 million. And so we had to, actually, I think it's a little bit lower now. We got some more. We paid it down a little bit more, but it's under $59 million.
That's the outstanding debt from us issuing grant anticipation notes over the course of
Right, for the
several
school
years.
construction program,
Yeah.
which has been going on for quite some time.
Right.
So we refinanced those, and that was some of the costs reflected there. Some of the interest rate. They were variable rate before we refinanced them. We refinanced them for a much lower interest rate of 3.5%. So it's more predictable. So those are refinanced with Webster Bank. We have one more chance to, what we call refinance those one more time before we have to pay the balance down. And we're working diligently with the state. I forget what it stands for, BAS, the department that manages the school reimbursements. And we're, getting all of our audits done and going through that whole process to make sure we can get as much money from the state as possible before we have to, we're trying to make sure that we don't have to long-term finance any of it, but we're working closely with the state to get that reimbursement all worked out.
So the financing costs are what, one-time fees associated with refinancing?
Yes.
Or is it like
And the
higher
interest rates.
higher interest rates because of the variability?
Yeah, it was higher interest rates as well.
But all related to the GANs, or some related also to our other debt?
Mostly. In the fiscal 2025 budget, we had, we had built-in savings from the refunding in 2025. So there were savings built into the budget, so we had to do refinancing last year to make sure we met that target. So we did get close to that target of the $1.3 billion in budgeted savings from refinancing. So that helped. There was some cost of issuance to do that. So that showed up in the numbers and things like that. So this year, we do think we're going to have a deficit in debt service. But when we did our refinancing this year, we structured it in a way to minimize that. So we applied a little bit more savings in the current year than we did in the out years to make sure we can minimize any deficit in the debt service fund.
Okay. Thank you for that explanation. I have a couple more questions before I ask them. I'd like to recognize Alder Walker-Myers, who has joined us. Okay, my other questions are, and just for her information, we started with item 2, knowing that some folks would be late. We're about to wrap up item 2, and then we'll go to item 1. What pilot money didn't come through? This must be like some other pilot. There's lots of pilots in our budget. Some folks think understandably about the colleges and universities support we get from the state, but there's all sorts of pilots.
State buildings as well.
Yeah, we get pilots from different places. So which pilot did the money? My recollection is you said the money did not come through.
It's just an estimate. So
okay.
This is the report. You're talking about for the year end or for the monthly?
For the monthly, that's what we're talking about now. It was in your presentation.
Yeah.
I didn't understand it.
Let's see. I'm just going to the right section.
Okay.
It's showing under 306. Let's see. Sorry, there's a lot of revenue lines. So we are expecting to get the full tax levy, or close to it. And then there was we have the $3 million of extra state aid built into our revenue projection. And then we were just showing no, that's for the New Haven Parking Authority.
Okay. And that's less than expected, or is it not happening?
It's less than expected. And the reason being is that it was a carryover from the fiscal 25 budget where we budgeted $2 million for parking authority pilot. They paid 1.5 million. I reached out to them. This was at the end of the year, and I said, our budget says you want to pay 2 million. And they said, our document says that we pay 1.5, our agreement. So we paid 1.5. And so this was a carryover from the 25 budget because it was a status quo budget. So I carried that forward. And I just want to mark it so they do not forget that will be.
That we include the correct figure in the budget.
Right. And also that we account for that as the year progresses.
Okay. Right. Thank you. I want to understand exactly what that was. And so the 3 million, which we did vote on to assign into the general fund for educational use if needed. But the way that you're accounting for it in this current fiscal year is as a surplus in that line item.
I did, like, as of August, when it was not approved.
So it'll be moved
Yes.
mechanically
Yes,
subsequent to our vote.
yes.
Okay. Okay. I want to make sure we did vote on that, yes. Okay, great. So those are my questions. My intention is to move to the next item, but I would like to give Madam President a chance to ask a question if she has one. Seeing none. Thank you for your presentation on the monthly financial report for August. And now we're going to move to the first item on the agenda, which is the year-end closeout transfer request. And do you have more papers to give us, or are you
I
not
have
going to?
backup, but I'm not sure. I have the first page up, which,
If it's information we had in our packets, we probably don't need it.
I have this is the budget,
We
the
have
books on that one. And I feel like this is the clearest way to look at it.
Okay.
So the budget transfer.
So just to interrupt you, I'm sorry, for colleagues,
You'll need to unlock your iPhone first.
we're going to need to unlock our iPhone and move to this page, which shows where the money's coming from and where the money's going to. It's in our packets. So that as you speak to it, we can look at it.
Yes. So part of this is the regular end of year transfer. So where is it? Okay, so these are the items. So what we want to do is move the surpluses, transfer the departments that had surpluses and move those into the departments that had deficits. So as you can see, the surpluses, a lot of the departments had surpluses. A lot of it was from vacancy savings. Police, public works, community resilience, transportation, traffic and parking, non-public transportation, as you can see, go down the list. There were almost all of the departments had surpluses. So then the only one that didn't was finance, and that was really attributable to IT, because IT is under finance and there's quite a demand for new solutions because technologies move quickly and people in the city would like to take advantage of that for efficiency and savings and that sort of thing. But it does cost money to implement a lot of those. So finance was over, corporate counsel was over, and it's hard to predict how many cases they'll have and how much they will have to pay out in legal fees. The debt service had a deficit, as you can see. The contract reserve, we budgeted $1.7 million, and then we had to pay up the police retro, half of the police retro, so the remaining balance was $2.49 million. Central Utilities was over budget by about $3.8 million, and the Board of Education was actually over by 5.828. However, we're using the general fund, assigned general fund balance to account for $3 million of that. So the remaining $2.8 million is being covered by the surpluses in all the other budget lines. So if you look on the front page, you will see that the general fund balance of $3 million is going towards education. I will, let's see. Number one should be 13,649, 305. as shown on the back.
Okay, so you're saying that that's not a correct figure.
Yes.
Is the $27,349,846 figure correct?
I think it's overstated.
It looks like it's overstated as well. Well, if you change 16 million to 13 million on both sides of this table, it balances
It'll
out.
balance, yes.
So why do you think that happened? I mean, that's a $3 million difference. Is it the $3 million is counted twice, perhaps?
No, it's timing. It's when I ran the report and then I updated it.
Okay.
It is a timing.
13,649,905.
Hold on. This is what I'm showing you.
We'll give you a moment to figure it out.
Yep.
This number is wrong on the back. I think I updated.
So you have 4.7. What did it be?
Okay, the monthly report was published with a different, okay. This is what was published in the pre-audit report.
And that matches up with what's in the
front page,
document that you
right,
provided us.
Right.
So why did that get updated to go from 1604?
It is point in time, so, it did get updated on this page.
Okay. So what you're telling us then is that the information on the departmental listing
Yes,
is correct. The 13,649,905, but the information in the general fund various line of the
actually, I'm
First
saying
page.
the opposite, this is correct, it's 1649.
16049 is correct.
Yeah.
But the 13,649 is not.
Right.
Okay. So what accounts for the discrepancy? Was it a little bit all over the place, or is it one item that was just $3 million? Because this kind of gives us a helpful departmental breakdown. And so it's good for us to know where the numbers are understated in that.
The police department came in much better. Yeah, the police department had a bigger surplus than,
Than is listed here.
yeah.
Okay. Is it $3 million bigger?
It's 3.7, and this one said 2.4. The police, the fire, public works is the same. It's just the surpluses were a little bit higher.
Right, but then but you're proposing to move all those surpluses to the other items, so then
Right.
there's more money going to the departments at the bottom, so which departments are getting the money? Then it's listed here. Because it has to be the same number in both columns, right? If you can't get it now,
Yeah.
because, it takes a little bit of time and effort to get
Yeah.
it, we're gonna need that information.
Okay.
Because, what we're doing today is mechanical in a certain sense, but it's also really important that we do it based on full understanding what we're doing. And so
Yes.
if the numbers don't match, it makes us feel uneasy about
Yes, I
doing that.
understand.
Okay. So the number that so on this page here,
Mhm.
you're saying that the $16,049,846 is correct.
I believe so, yes.
And that the $27,349,846, which is the roll-up of all those amounts, is also
I
correct.
believe so.
And then, of course, that matches up
And I'll confirm all of it.
with that. Okay. Well, so, we will definitely want to have an updated version of this
Yes,
with the correct amounts
yes.
to see what's being taken from and what's being given to.
Mhm.
it also helps us to understand where are we having the biggest problems in terms of budget. And we already have some idea because it's here.
Yes.
It's not as big as
Right.
the final numbers show. Okay, anything else you want to include in your presentation before we take questions?
Yes, so the rest of the transfer, you can see is the general fund assigned fund balance to education. Then there was the ARPA transfer. So we are recommending moving ARPA funds to cover fire overtime and police overtime, and the amount's 1.25 million for both. And then there's also, because the state U.S. Treasury changed its guidance throughout in the middle of the year, we had appropriated $6 million of ARPA funds as revenue replacement. The guidance was that that was no longer an option. We could not use ARPA funds for revenue replacement. They had to be tied to expenditures. So we proposed that we use the ARPA interest, $5.8 million in ARPA interest to cover that change.
To cover most of it,
Yes,
not all of it.
correct.
All right. Okay, so we did use the $3 million that we set aside in the general fund balance assigned for educational use if needed. On the next page, we see that the Board of Ed ended with a $5.8 million deficit, which was covered with $2.8 million from elsewhere, from some mix of these
Yes.
donor departments,
Yes,
and with the $3 million which we just mentioned.
yes.
Right. Now, is that $5.8 million figure correct? It's on this page, is it correct? Is that the final deficit for the Board of Ed for last
The
fiscal year?
deficit that we have is, in the report that was published was 4.9 million.
So they were able to mitigate,
Yes,
looks like almost $1 million of that deficit.
yes,
So they ended with a little bit better result than
yes.
on this sheet.
And it was, the monies came from, what offset that was special education funding from other towns that was owed to the city. So that's what brought that
Disputed.
Special ed, yes, yep.
Okay. So ultimately, that $3 million was needed, an additional $1.9 million was needed
Yes,
on top of it
right,
from elsewhere
yes,
to deal with the deficit for the board.
yes.
Anything else you want to add?
No, not at this time.
Okay. So I'm going to open it up to questions from colleagues about this item. The queue is open. Alder Frome.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for your presentation. I just have a question on, I guess, process. So I'm just wondering how you do it. So you have the departments and then the amount of money that's being transferred. I'm assuming that each department has some kind of accounting practice, payroll, vacation time, overtime, and that's all divided out. How do you come up, how do they submit these numbers to you to say that this is what they're over or?
It's in the system, it's in Munis.
So is it broken by, is there line items for this?
Oh, yeah, it's broken out by, budget code.
Yeah.
What we call account organization code, and then, object code. So we can see what's coming in for salaries, we can see, we can see what they're spending it on, other than personnel services. We can go in and click on the actual invoices that they're actually submitting and see exactly what they're spending it on.
So for like police department, there's a code for patrol, and there's a code for detectives, there's a code for admin. So we have all that broken down. This is a summary of everything that's in agency number, department number 201. So we can summarize it that way by department number. But we do have it in all the detail as well.
So I'm thinking like, for example, and I know the personnel probably will make up some of these numbers as you stated. So let's say that the library has been assigned $100,000 for supplies. Maybe this is just an example, right? But they only spent 50,000. So they have an additional 50,000. Would that be what will make up this number that you would transfer?
Yes.
Okay. Is it possible, I'll ask through the chair, is it possible that we can get those line items? Because I would be interested to see not just personnel, but what departments are not spending money on.
Oh, absolutely.
Through the chair.
Yes, you can get that. I'm wondering though, because if you look at the budget book, I mean, do we not get that already in some kind of format, like a year-end financial statement that shows the surpluses and deficits before it's all transferred? Do we get that? Or do we get that after it's all been transferred and it just shows that everything's in balance?
So it's a lot of detail. You can get lost in the details, right? So the monthly reports kind of sum it all up so you can get a look at it. The way we're doing the budget this year is, I have a column where you can see every single budget line item, every single one. It's just a database of the line items because I find it very difficult to look at that budget file that we've been working with for years, and I quite frankly don't want to use it anymore. I can't see, you can't sort, it's way too cumbersome. So the way we're doing it this year is we have a master sheet where it's like a database. I pulled it right out of Munis. It shows you what you spent for what you budgeted for the past, for 24, what you spent, what you budgeted for 25, what you spent, what you budgeted for 26 and where you are year to date. And then we're gonna build the 27 budget off of that. It has as much detail as you would like to see. And actually I think it's a lot easier to look at. And we're just starting the budget. So I have a master sheet that I looked at, but I did do, for my own satisfaction, I did a quarterly report that includes narrative as to, I can explain what's going on for the first quarter of the year. And I did it at the end of, I just did one. So it has a lot of detail. I would suggest, I think we should be doing a quarterly report that gives you a tremendous amount of detail and a narrative that goes with it. It's a little hard to do on a monthly basis, but I think I would propose that I provide to you a quarterly report.
So perhaps I should clarify, because what I'm interested in knowing is this final amount. What makes up this amount? So you have $1.5 million in the police department.
So we can definitely get you a report. It'll be similar to what's in the budget, how the budget is laid out by org. So we can definitely get you that.
I mean, I can pull it. It's just, there's so much data. It's easy to get lost in it.
So let me make that request to the chair if it's possible. Thank you.
Yes, and I think what you're saying, Alder Furlow, is that in those departments that ended, are you interested in both the departments that ended in surplus as well as the ones that ended in deficit?
No, I just want to know, so these departments have a surplus.
Yeah.
This is money that we
Budgeted,
budgeted to them, right? So I would like to know.
What didn't get spent?
It's mostly salaries, I will tell you.
If it's mostly salary, that makes it easy.
Like for police officers, you asked about police, they spent on their salary budget line item 77.8%. That went right into the overtime. Because if you don't have the police officers in the salary line, you're gonna spend in the overtime line. So I have all that data and more. I just don't know how much you want to see.
And the salaries will make it easier in figuring out the budget next year. But should we be increasing office supplies, for example? Where is this money? What is not being spent that's being allocated to these departments? That's my question. You already said that there were salaries, but I'm interested to know if there's any other areas, because this is thousands of dollars.
So let me make a suggestion
Yes.
as a place to start. That what we would want in those departments that didn't spend all the money that was allocated to them in our budget last fiscal year, a summary of how much of that was personnel costs. And you can do that just by position count. Right, 28 positions, only 26 of them were filled, right? right, which means vacancies and saving, a dollar amount of savings. And then for the non-personnel expenditures, let's get some more detail, right? Maybe it was that they had money budgeted for subscriptions, which they didn't do, or for materials that they didn't do, or travel that they didn't do, or membership to organizations that they canceled. I mean, it's a lot of different things. Right? Other contractual services, they had $5 million budgeted for other contractual, they only spent 2.73. I'm making this up, obviously. But when you think about our budget, it's got personnel, and then it's got everything else. Personnel, you can just do head count.
Right.
For other things, because it helps us understand when they come back to us next year saying we want more money for subscriptions. We didn't spend the money on subscriptions this year, so why are you asking for more?
Right, more data.
Yeah, so I think that's what we're.
And I have it all. It's like, how do you want to present it? Because you can get, I spend my head is in this all day. I can present it a number of ways. We can use the data. This is what I'm switching to, a data sheet instead of that big cumbersome budget file. I don't know if you've seen it.
So why don't we talk about that offline?
Yeah, and
come up with something that will work.
I don't think it's that complicated, Mr. Chair. I'm just asking what makes up this amount. And so there should be line items per department. So if the department was given $100,000 and they only spent 50, then you know that that's what this amount includes. I don't think it's that complicated.
No, it's not. It's just a lot of data. So how to present it so it's palatable.
By line item.
I can show you the whole thing then.
Yeah, so it'll be just similar to the budget book. How the budget book is laid out would be exactly that same format with line items and.
I'm looking at it right now, so I can share this. And
I'll
I
make a
have
request to
I
you,
need it.
Mr. Chair.
Okay, good.
However it needs
We
to be
will
done.
make that happen.
Okay.
Further questions from Alder Frog? Alder Festa's next on the queue.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just need a clarification on what we have in front of us, because we have two lists we have this list, which is the 13 million, and we have this list, which is the 16 million, and that's the one that is accurate, right?
Yeah.
Because I noticed that
Yes.
fire department was not noted on this one.
Thank you, Alder Festa, for pointing out that in our packet, both lists are included. It's the one with the bigger font, and that's taller, that apparently is correct. And I don't know if you all have it, but it's this one. So we got both of those lists.
Thank you, just for clarification.
Thank you.
Because there's some missing items in the other one. Okay, then I'm gonna go back to the Board of Ed, because I just want to make it clear, correct me if I'm wrong. We voted on a budget for fiscal year, what year are we in, 25, but 24, 25, of 5 million, that was in the mayor's budget. We allocated 3 million, didn't we, another time?
We assigned 3 million of the general fund balance to be used for educational purposes. Which
Outside of this 3 million,
that is that 3 million.
but even prior. for
No, that is
fiscal year-
that 3 million.
Yes, but another time we
No.
3 million for they to use if needed, and
That's
they used
for
it for 24.
No, that's for last fiscal year.
Yeah, 24, fiscal year 24.
No, it's for fiscal year 24-25, which just completed. So that's what that 3 million.
This is that same 3 million?
Yeah.
Okay, because we were voting on an additional 3 million
That's for this year.
for this year.
Yes.
For the current
The next
fiscal.
time. I guess.
2 fiscal years.
So bottom
Not
line,
3.
what I'm getting to is that we continuously invest in our Board of Ed. It's not like we're not giving money. And, if we were to add all this up between the 3 million, the 5 million, and even all the in-kind city general fund budget line items that we provide to the Board of Ed, we're dedicated as far as funding them to where, so I guess I'm just looking that they have a fiscal responsibility as well. We keep going back to Board of Ed and kind of wanting additional information, line item, I don't know what we need, a fiscal audit, I don't know. We haven't been provided with all the documents I feel necessary to really determine, what amount we need to give them. We just don't have it realistically. But I just wanted to make sure in my head I'm clear on the 3 million here, the 1.9 million there, the 5 million here, because when you add it all up, it's quite a bit of money.
I did want to say one thing about last year's results, if I may. I handed this out to you, did I have this one? This is how we ended last year, according to, these are all point in time, so be sure if it's not, this is exactly what you're looking at, because I ran it out.
Okay.
So this is point in time. So if you look at the general fund on the left, it shows you how much revenue and expenditures came in. And you see that we had operating, actually at this point, it might be different than yours. They'll run at different times and things shift slightly until the audit is done. Because accounting's doing treatments and all sorts of things. So we're showing about, let's just call it roughly a $50 million surplus in the general fund. So all of the expenditure savings in the general fund would have covered the overage in the utility fund. It did cover the overage in the utility fund, and it covered most of the deficit in the Board of Education. So that actually is balanced. The real pressure last year, as you can see, is the litigation fund, the medical fund, and the workers' comp fund. That's what really drove the final deficit. Those things are a lot harder to control. We did meet with Anthem about our healthcare costs. We got quite a good presentation. Healthcare costs were over budget. We had last year, the year before, we had about 58 high cost claims. In 2025, we had 72. One of those claims was over $1 million. And 10 of them were over 500,000. So we had people who got very ill last year, and we had to pay for that. That is a big driver of why we ended up with a deficit for the year. So I just want to point out, like when you look at the general fund in aggregate, all the attrition and the vacancies that we have are driving savings. The savings are covering some of the other areas where there are overages. And that's been the case since I've been here. I've gone through 2 of these cycles. So I do think, is there an opportunity to right-size the budget? To look at some of those areas where we have deficits and we have pressure, like the utility. Yes, we're doing everything we can to look at that utility. We're doing a lot of the bond refundings. We shouldn't have deficits in debt service funds. We're working on that to make sure we don't have that we're appropriately projecting out what the interest rates are going to be and things like that. So, this next budget that's coming up, is it an opportunity to look at things fresh? And to see, maybe we're budgeting too much in this. We can see consistently year over year, we budgeted too much here, we didn't budget enough there. I think there's an opportunity to do that, and I would be committed to do that. Because this is the first time is just getting through. This time we can look at it in much more detail and figure those things out.
No, thank you. I appreciate that because, it is some items, as you mentioned, are, you can estimate a budget for them, like medical and workers' comp, and even litigation for that matter. But ones that we can control would be helpful to understand, particularly even, our Board of Ed. Or actually, we keep saying Board of Ed, but it's actually New Haven Public School.
Right.
And HPS. So, with that being said, we have a responsibility to our kids, and I get it, and to our teachers and staff, et cetera, but we also have to be fiscally responsible with how, we're spending our money, or taxpayer money. Okay, so here I'm going to go back to this list. so fire overtime, police overtime, we're allocating 1.25, but yet we're also using extra funds that they had to transfer to departments that. So I guess help me understand that. If we're taking from fire and police and transferring, but yet we still have to put 1.
Oh, okay. That goes back to the comment about looking at it in various ways. So when you look at the overtime budget was way over budget. Just in police, it was, let me find police. We were over by,
So I think that part, I think the question is,
right, why do we show a surplus?
well, so the answer is that those are ARPA funds
Okay.
that are covering the overtime. So again, because of that change in revenue loss or revenue replacement and that Treasury made, those were the only two projects that we have in ARPA that had a direct effect on reducing the general fund expenses. So that's coming from ARPA, that 2.5 million, 1.25 for each fire overtime, police overtime. So that is increasing surplus, but those are the only two that directly affect the general fund.
And if you look deeper into the object code level, they did have those deficits in the overtime. We roll it up, so you see police on aggregate having a surplus, but the overtime lines were clearly well above budget.
Okay, thanks for that clarification. Now it makes a little more sense.
So these listings include the ARPA funds
Yes.
going in to support the.
Yeah, yes.
Okay, perfect, thank you. I think I'm good right now. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Alder Festa. Further questions from colleagues about this item, which is a request to make a pretty complicated transfer, which we do every year, to move money from departments with surpluses to departments with negative balances. But it also includes a request to take $3 million assigned in the general fund balance for educational use and to transfer it to the part of the budget that pays for the Board of Ed.
Right,
It also includes some ARPA shuffling.
yes,
That's not a technical term, but they've used it before.
Yes.
Like moving ARPA monies around based on updated guidance from the Treasury Department. And at the end of all of it, the numbers balance out. And this is the correct listing of department breakdowns for which departments are donating and which departments are receiving. Donating is not the right word, but from a budgetary standpoint. Further questions from colleagues of this item? I would just note for colleagues that we don't have a quorum, so we're not going to deliberate tonight. So if you want to ask a question or say anything, now's the time to do it.
Just, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Alder Festa.
Thank you. I'm just gonna kind of on the same line that Alder Furlan was asking about. We know the departments here that we need to transfer funds to. There's public safety, employee benefits, et cetera. It kind of goes in line with what Alder Furlan was asking regarding where are they short? Like where are these departments short that they need Board of Ed? You explained that for finance, it was mainly IT department requests.
sure, I can talk about
For, employee benefits, as we kind of got an idea of what that is.
Right.
Public safety, why are we short these amounts, and do we need to change the next budget to reflect those changes?
We do need to think about some of this. So start off the bat, look at public safety. I believe that one was driven by a little bit of overtime. They had a little bit of attrition at the beginning of the year. They did a lot of hiring to make sure those positions were filled. So I know that was part of that. Employee benefits, that's just edged up at the end, throughout the year, and some of the, I don't have a really good explanation for the 160. Developmental operating subsidies was a little bit over. Just there were some requests for funds for various items that we had to fund throughout the year. The finance department was IT, corporate counsel was they had more cases. It's hard for them to know how many cases they're gonna have in a year, so we budget a number, and usually, a lot of times it goes over because we're not really sure how many we're gonna have. The pension, part of it is we overpaid the pension actuarial slightly, and then there was also the, it's not pension, but the other retirement benefits showed up there. So that was over budget. That could be right-sized in the next budget for sure, to make sure that we're more accurate and work with our actuarials to have a really good, strong, solid number across the board on that. Debt service the same. We'll do better projecting at what the interest rates are. We can project out how much we think we're gonna have to pay on a monthly basis and add that into our projection as well, so that that's covered. Some of it was financing costs because we did do that refunding last year.
Have the lower rates helped with the refi? Or
Yeah,
did we not
it does.
apply that?
Yes, we've had savings.
Okay.
The contract reserve, that was the police retro payment. We budgeted 1.7, the retro payment was about 4 million, I can't remember the exact number, but it was about $4 million. So there was a shortage there. Central utilities, we're working diligently on that to bring down our energy costs. Some of it was changing our internal controls and working with UI to consolidate all of our accounts, and in doing so, there were some prior balances that had to be taken care of so that we could clear those out and move forward with a new consolidated invoicing. We have what we call what's it called? Collective bills. Instead of, there were so many bills, and some of the bills were going, before I started, were going to individuals' email boxes, and how do you know that you have an invoice if you can't find it? And that doesn't happen anymore. They all come from UI directly to an email box that the controller has access to, I have access to, the OPMG has access to, and accounts payable, so that we have visibility. I just got a random one emailed to me, and I'm like, why are you emailing this to me? I called Greg Mullen immediately, like, this should never happen because this will not get paid. So we had to clean up all of that. So that was that one, and then the Board of Education.
We've been lost.
Yeah, yes.
Okay, I appreciate that, because that helps, I think, even with, look, I'm sure departments are already talking about the budget that's gonna come out March 1st. And March 1st will be here before we know it. So,
Right.
This is a reflection too of where focuses need to be made.
Right.
As far as either.
And I do hear the point that was made about being more precise. Like, if you think you're gonna have a shortage in this one and you have such an overage in this one, maybe, we can try to be more proactive about that. And I am treating the budget more, I'm doing a lot more data analysis. Like, that's why I don't want to use the old budget form. It's all like big Excel files that we can run and chart and project and apply formulas. So it's a lot more data driven than when I walked in, and I'm going to try to keep moving forward with that and use the data to the best of our abilities so we can have more clarity.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Alder Festa. Any further questions from colleagues about the year-end closeout transfer request? I have several items to follow up on, which I will. Seeing no further questions, we thank you for your presentation, and you may be dismissed.
Thank you so much.
So as I mentioned before, we do not have a quorum this evening. We need 6 colleagues to have a quorum, and we have 5 here. So, and I would also note that the only people here are city staff and alders. So if we had members of the public here, I would invite them to speak on this, because that was in our intention to have a public hearing. But seeing that there are no members of the public here who aren't either city staff or us elders, I don't think I need to ask for the public to testify. So having said all that, the appropriate next step would be a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion.
Oh, any discussion of the motion to adjourn? I'll just say in the discussion of the motion to adjourn, that my intention will be to ask for the president to discharge this item from this committee for it to be given a first reading at the next board meeting, since we're not able to vote on it tonight. Any further discussion of the motion to adjourn? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. The motion carries. We are adjourned. Thank you.
Didn't do it again. Oh, where is that go? If you go to the right, where it says end.
Yep, I see it.
X.
Now,